Hello. Hi. So, the year is 1998. I am in grade 11 at Woburn Collegiate in Scarborough. It is the spring. I have just turned 17. And I am in the 5th month of my very first real economy job that isn't delivering the Scarborough Mirror or shoveling snow or anything like that. It is at the Bayview Village Cinema, where I take tickets and I sling popcorn and I see a lot of movies for free. This is the real advantage. I have seen like the last 20 minutes of Teaching Mrs. Tingle like 1,000 times. The great thing about Bayview Village Cinema is when I started, it's managed by a woman named Mrs. P. Mrs. P is 65 years old. She has worked for this movie theater chain, or rather, the chain that was bought by this movie theater chain, or the chain that was bought by them, or something, for 50 years. She does not believe in workplace smoking laws. The manager's office is just a constant fog, and you can smell it throughout the cinema. And if anybody complains, Mrs. P just walks away muttering that they should get fucked. And the day comes when Mrs. P retires. And Mrs. P has had a very laissez-faire management routine. Basically, she thinks things will more or less take care of themselves. And if they don't, she's been there 50 years, who's going to say anything? Mrs. P is replaced by Corey. Corey, I now realize, was about 5 years older than me and had worked for 5 years at the movie theater and had just graduated from business management at Seneca College. And he was very, very eager to sort of take this largely failing movie theater and turn it around. And he was going to do that by being a dick. One of Corey's new policies was no one leaves until after all the cash is counted. But Mrs. P, nobody was going to try and steal from Mrs. P, because if you did, she'd put a hex on you and then put a cigarette out in your eye. But Corey, people might try and get over on Corey. We don't like him. So anyway, it's about 3 weeks into the new Corey regime, and I usually work Tuesdays, Saturday afternoons, and Sunday afternoons. But I'm here on a Thursday night because somebody called in sick. So I'm there, and I'm doing concessions, and Corey's like, okay, now wait there while I count all the cash, and then goes and tries to walk into his office and realizes he's locked his keys in his office. Now, any reasonable human would say, well, I mean, I'm not keeping you here waiting for a locksmith, go home. But Corey is not a reasonable human. So we are all going to stay while he waits for a locksmith so he can count the cash. My father is waiting for me in the parking lot. It is 11:30. I have a presentation in grade 12 urban geography tomorrow. I do not have time for this shit. He's like, well, you're all staying unless you can think of something else. So I say, fuck it, okay. I walk into the break room. I step up on the couch in the break room. The ceiling is a track ceiling. It's made of asbestos tile. Does anybody know what I'm talking about here? Okay. I look up and I go, I'm much thinner at this time. And I go, yeah, I can do this. I shift over the asbestos tile, hoist myself up onto a gas pipe, and I'm now in the ceiling of the cinema. As I'm trying to push over the asbestos tile so I can then land in his office, I slip. And with a crash that sounds like the wrath of God, I land on my back on the safe with bits of metal ceiling tile track and asbestos and shattered glass and literally a sparking wire next to me. And like it looks like a bomb has gone off. There's dust, and there's plaster just falling everywhere. And I open the door, and I go back out in the cinema, and I had just had my labret pierced. It was the 90s. And which Corey hated, but our general manager didn't care about. The backing of the labret has gone up inside my lip. I spit blood on the floor and say, "I'm in!" Corey walks in, takes a look around, and comes out terrified. I am covered in asbestos dust. And he goes, does Roman is the regional manager. Does Roman, is he going to find out how this happened? And I'm like, I need $100, Corey. And because in my mind, $100 does the following things for me. Blank skateboard wheels, new rancid record, $20 worth of weed, and my friend Kip's, enough left over for my friend Kip's sister to buy me a 12 of Labatt Wildcat. $100 is a fuck ton of money. And so he reaches in, I think to the movie theater chain's money, hands me two 50s, and I walk out covered in dust, still bleeding from the mouth. As on my way out, I look behind me and I see one side of the cinema has gone completely dark. I go up the stairs, and indeed, one side of the mall is completely dark. My dad is waiting for me. I get in, and he goes, "Why are you covered in plaster dust?" And I'm like, "Don't worry about it." And then he's like, I look, one side of the mall, completely black. And we drive away, and I think about my $100. And every time I tell this story, the thing that strikes me is, I could have owned that goddamn movie theater. I could have owned Corey. And in fact, what happened was the first in a long series of incidents in which I sold myself short. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I'm going through some career transitions. And every time I think I'm going to ask for something, I think, did I just injure myself for $100? So anyway, don't sell yourself short. Next time you fall for a ceiling, ask for fucking everything. All right.